Okay, we should be recording. All right, we'll get started then. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time and effort to join us. This is the MLT, Barton Community College MLT Advisory Board meeting. I greatly appreciate everyone who is able to join us this morning and help provide feedback for our program. You know, we couldn't do this program without you, obviously, as we're an online program. So I just want to take a minute and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then the agenda for the meeting this morning is in the files. You might have gotten it with your email, but then we also have it in files attached to the chat room there. So I just want to take a few seconds and introduce our Executive Director. Chris Baker is on the Zoom with us today. And Chris, I forgot to ask you if you wanted to say anything, but I appreciate you being on here.
Yep, absolutely. As Karen said, I'm the Executive Director of Healthcare and Public Service Education. Glad to be here, enjoy working with the MLT and learning about the MLT program. Also wanted to pass along, I just got a message that Dr. Kathy Kodos, who's the Dean of Workforce Training and Education for us, is unable to make it today, but I will do her part of the presentation when it comes up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen okay. I am going to go ahead and get started. The purpose of the advisory board, you're all on this Zoom because we need feedback. We need an advisory board to help us make some program decisions and to let you know, give you updates on what is happening with the MLT program. So the purpose of the advisory board, I'm going to show that to you. Provide advice and support, assist in establishing and validity of industry recognized knowledge and skills, partner in exploration, participate in curriculum development, assist in the review process to align with our Perkins requirements, assist in the identification of strategies to promote career and technical education programs, assist in the identification of appropriate training, internship, and employment opportunities, evaluate the training facilities and program equipment, make suggestions, and participate in college and/or program-related activities. There is an advisory board survey link here on this slide, but then we're also going to put that up in the chat room. So when we're done with our advisory board meeting today, if you could complete that survey. It's different than the program survey that I sent out earlier. So the advisory board survey is more of questions related to advisory board purpose and how you feel we're meeting the purpose of the advisory board, if that makes sense. So please take time at some point to complete that advisory board survey. So minutes from the spring 22 MLT advisory board meeting. We did a pre-recorded video last spring. So there is a link to that in your agenda. The spring video, it's a YouTube video. So, you know, hopefully you can access it from your work computers, but if not, I can provide the video link to you as well. Then we have the minutes from the fall 2021 advisory board meeting. That link is there if you want to pull up those documents. And we probably need to vote to approve those minutes. So hopefully you've gotten a chance to read them. If not, let me see if I can pull them up if you want to get a bit quick look over. Right there. Hopefully you can see that. And I'll give you a chance to look over that real quick if you're like. I had our program numbers, new employees, site visits, statistics, everything on there, and of course that. So if you could just put a, I'm not seeing anything other than her cover page. I hope that has changed. Can you see the advisory board meetings from 21? The minutes? I can see the minutes. Okay. Okay. Marshall, I have you on 3 different Zoom links. So it might be that you're looking at one and not the right one. I know you'll figure it out. I know. I have faith in you. Okay, so that's our, if everybody could just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the chat or the emojis to vote, to approve, thumbs up if you approve it, thumbs down if you don't. Okay. The MLT program, whoops, sorry. Program survey, if you could complete that, there is a QR code here on the slide that, there's Marshall coming in again. Okay, so there's a QR code that will link to it, but there's also this survey link here. If you could please complete that survey at some point, it would be more of information regarding our program specifically. The fall advisory board meeting agenda is also included in the files on the chat. So now that I have that, I think, covered, we will move on to program updates. So one of the more exciting things that we've done this year as far as the program is we've added some equipment. Our on-campus labs have been a lot of manual methodology the past several years. And then the last 2 years, we really haven't had too much in the way of on-campus labs with everything else going on. It seems like everybody had a co-op lab or they weren't needing to come to campus for labs. So what we did this year is we added a few things. Thankfully, we've had some amazing donations. We were able to get the little Sysmex hematology instrumentation was donated to us. We greatly appreciate that. We've had some cell washers. We've had some MTS gel blood bank incubators donated and cell washers. So those we greatly appreciate anything that you have that we might be able to use for the program. We would definitely take it. So we appreciate those donations. The other thing that we did with our Perkins Fund this year is we added a 5-head teaching microscope, which has worked really well with our hematology labs this year. And we're going to be, of course, using it with urinalysis and some other things too. So I'm really excited about that. That allows us to actually sit down and have 4 students along with the instructor going over differentials, pointing out cells, everybody working at the same time. So that's pretty exciting. We're happy to have that. Another program update that we have made some schedule changes. One of the things that we received feedback on last year was the availability of classes for students to continue throughout the summer, where previously the only thing that we've had offered in the summer is phlebotomy and our clinical practicums. By doing that, students who were wanting to complete the program within 1 year had to take like 15 to 16 credit hours a semester, and that is overwhelming, especially if you're trying to work full-time, which most of our students are. So what we've done is we've moved a couple of the 3 credit hour smaller courses to summer 12-week sessions. So they're kind of being condensed from 16 to 12 weeks. So they're going to be intense. However, that will allow students to go for a full 12 months, continuous 12 months, instead of taking a break over the summer and then having another semester to finish up. So hopefully that will kind of move our students through the program a little bit quicker, while actually decreasing the amount of courses that they take in the fall or in the spring, kind of help lighten that credit hour load for them, since most of them are working full time. We will not be having labs on campus during the summer, however, so other than the phlebotomy class, the students who take the immunology, urinalysis and body fluids, and phlebotomy and parasitology classes over the summer, the phlebotomy is the only one we'll have an on-campus lab for. The others will have to have outside cooperative labs. The clinical practicum rotation comprehensive exams were added this past summer for our clinical practicums. In the past, this was something that we had kicked around a couple of times, because with our clinical practicums being a set number of hours, for instance, of 100 hours in microbiology, we had students who were doing like 10-hour days, and then in 2 weeks you're done with micro. And we didn't feel that that was a sufficient amount of time, or getting a sufficient experience within the microbiology. So we've had some issues with students rushing through clinicals, trying to get them done, which is understandable, but you know, again, that's not the best. Then we've also had students that may have done their clinical practicum or their classes for hematology a year and a half ago, and then we get out to take our ASCP exam and then have not scored so well on the tests. So in order to bring up our ASCP test results and kind of review all of the courses before they take their ASCP exams, we've added the comprehensive exams for each section. Those comprehensive exams, the questions for those come directly off the ASCP practice tests that we have access to in Media Lab, and also the ASCP MLT practice book that we have, that the students have availability or are required to have for their lab operations class. So we're not pulling these questions out of thin air. They are coming directly from the ASCP test exams. The way that they are designed is that students are to take, once they complete, let's say the hours for hematology, then they should take the comprehensive exam for hematology. That way, if they don't pass with a 70% or above, we can say, okay, obviously we need to go back and review some things. So then it would be up to us and the clinical site whether we need to extend their clinical hours for hematology, or if we just add in some remedial activities, some review activities. But they have 3 opportunities to pass those exams with a 70% or above. If they do not pass it within those 3 attempts, then they do not pass that section of clinical practicums. If it's clinical practicum 1, and they're taking it between semesters, that's not such a big deal. We can have them retake that section of clinical practicum 1 at the very end of the program when they take clinical practicum 2. It's the students that graduate in May and are taking clinicals that next summer, who don't pass those comprehensive exams, then we know we have a problem and we really need to go back and start extending clinical hours and doing some things there. But we can provide some short quizzes if you feel the need to maybe help or help quiz your students during their clinical rotations, help them review. If you would like those quizzes, we can provide them to you on request, as long as you don't, like share out the answers and everything. We want to make it a learning experience, not necessarily a here's how to pass your comprehensive exam experience. So the other thing we did for clinical practicum rotations were to extend the hours. So I guess we didn't exactly extend it, but there used to be, in previous years, there was a range, like chemistry was 20 to 30 clock hours for chemistry rotation. Well, we took that bottom off. So your range is no longer there. It's now you have to complete, 100 hours in micro, and that can be extended if you don't meet competencies, or if your clinical site would like to see you do more hours, or if they don't feel you're meeting the competency, then they can extend it. If you're not meeting your comprehensive exams scores, then we can extend those clinical hours. So yeah, that's what we have right now for clinical practicum for the summer. Okay. It looks like chemistry, we're going to leave that. We had discussed increasing the chemistry clinical hours to 50 hours for next summer, but I think we are going to leave it at 40, which is what it was this past summer. And the other note that I made on here was please make sure that you have an updated clinical manual. We do have a program binder now that has all the clinical requirements and updates and everything. It never fails. I get every year, every summer, I get forms sent to me that were from 2011. So we have updated some stuff. I will be more than happy to send out those program binders that have all the new forms, all the new time logs, all of that. If you need it, let me know. Adjunct changes. Just like you, we've had a little bit of turnover, I'm sure. We have had one adjunct take a traveler position, and she's out in Oregon, and she is absolutely loving that, but Oregon is not in our contract. I guess she's no longer able to be an adjunct for our program while she's living in Oregon. So she was our primary phlebotomy teacher. Last year, we added Tyler Brown, who we've been very happy with as a phlebotomy teacher, and she's able to come to campus, and she does a lot for both the 8-week and the 16-week programs. So we're very happy with her. So she was added on last year, although we lost Patience as our phlebotomy instructor. We had another adjunct who has entered the doctorate program. So we're very excited for her and wish her the best of luck. So she's taking a year off to concentrate on her doctorate or DCLS program through KU. She is, I have to brag on her a little bit. She's one of 8 students across the country that was accepted into the program. So we're excited for her. But she was teaching immunology and parasitology. So we've had Risa take on those 2 courses for us. And Andrea is working on those 2 courses as well. And then Tyler is now a full-time lab manager as well, so she's extra busy. And then Risa retired as lab manager, and she's picking up a lot of slack. So we're definitely have had some instructor changes as far as who's teaching what class and who's available and everything. But we are looking for some online instructors. I have had some people ask me about that. It would be beneficial if you were close enough that you could come to campus and help with some of those campus labs, but it's not necessary. It does take about 6 months, 3 to 6 months to get up and running on one class. So if you're wanting to look ahead 6 months, contact me. The MLT and program binders are complete for the 22-23 school year. I can send those out to you. They have all of the updated forms, program objectives for all classes and clinical practicums, all the lab guidelines. So there have been some updated lab guidelines for the majority of our classes. It would be a good idea if you had that. If you don't, let me know. Your students are supposed to provide you with those. But of course, that doesn't always happen. And I think that's the rest of that's pretty explanatory. So fall program updates. I went to the MLS MLT program directors meeting in Kansas City last 2 weeks ago. And it was very interesting. Of the 7 MLT programs that were part of the group from Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska, I was the only one that attended to represent MLTs. So, you know, the majority of the discussion was based around the 4-year MLS programs. There were 9 hospital-based MLS programs, 23 university programs. Kansas City was well represented. They've got some great opportunities out there, some larger labs for clinical sites. And then, of course, the hospital-based programs are very well represented as well. One of the largest problems that was brought up, or hot topics that was brought up with the group, is the lack of clinical sites and clinical hour, you know, trying to adjust clinical hours because of the lack of clinical sites for microbiology. Out in Kansas City, even where they have the larger labs and they have more access to clinical sites, it's still an issue for microbiology. So everybody was trying to figure out ways to compensate for that. Several of the MLS programs are considering an online format with the didactic portion or the content portion all delivered up front, and then clinical rotations only at the end. So they would have no on-campus lab and then online content early in the program, and then the clinical practicums at the end. So I'm hoping that works out for them, and we'll see how that goes. Across the board, ASCP pass rates were down slightly nationwide and for the programs in Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. We did discuss fragile student syndrome. It seems like everybody has had issues with students who are having difficulty with stress, meeting expectations. I think the one thing that they kept coming back to was they wanted to do clinical rotations on their own schedule, which we do try and make our clinical rotation requirements as flexible as possible for those students who are working full-time. However, the MLS programs, they have their clinical rotations are usually set full-time, 5 days, 4 to 5 days a week, 8-hour days, period. No questions, no flexibility with that, and their students are not able to handle that. Where us, on the other hand, we try and make it as flexible as possible, but then we have those students that want to do 30 minutes here and an hour here and 30 minutes there and try and get stuff done on their lunch hour, and that's not the best option either, because we want it to be, the clinical experience is supposed to encompass everything, which includes workflow, which includes handling, your day-to-day workload and the hours that the multitasking, all of that type of consideration. So that was one thing that I was surprised to hear, that everyone across the board was, struggling with some of those student issues. The hospital-based programs were having a hard time keeping their employees or their students who come through, and then hiring them as employees. There was concern with the CMS policy for nurses doing testing, lab testing, and from what I understand, that has been extended for a bit, but I do encourage everyone to make your opinions known on some of those issues. Recruiting was one thing that they did talk a lot about, and there are several facilities across the states that, or the mid-states area, that are offering students tuition reimbursement in exchange for, a year or two of work experience. They are offering, some of the hospital-based programs are offering insurance. So they're starting to, instead of just being a, like a social media blast, hey, come work for us, they're actually making those incentives known and recruiting hard, offering incentive bonuses, retention bonuses for their current employees, and then again, sign-on bonuses for new employees. The other topic that we discussed was the licensure of MLTs and MLSs, though it's not required in Kansas. And it was kind of more of a debate that I expected, as far as whether we should or should not require that in Kansas, and what could we do to sway how that occurs one way or the other. So, that would be something that I could definitely would be interested in your opinion on that, if you want to throw that in on your survey results. The other thing that we did talk about was the bridging program between MLT and MLS programs. The one that we've been working with foremost is WSU's MLS program. And once students have completed their MLT program with Barton, they can essentially test out in some of the coursework and clinical hours that WSU has for their MLS program, which can shorten that period of time for them. So that was, I did put us out there to other MLS programs and offer to try and work out some kind of articulation agreement with other programs to kind of create the same type of situation in order to bridge for MLT and MLS. So that was a lot of information. To go back to last year's meeting and some of the feedback that we got from the advisory board meeting last year, one of the things that was mentioned was as far as recruiting students and offering to have their facility as a clinical site. I had several people offer to do a contract agreement for employment in exchange for students coming there to do their clinical practicums. So, that's one thing that I have seen 2 of our clinical sites have now done. The question that we seem to get every year was about the outdated methodology. And we do struggle with that on campus a little bit, because we don't have, of course, we don't have the budget to have the big machines, the automation and everything like that. So we teach the theory with the manual tests, which I feel gives the students a good background. However, there are so many labs right now that have gone on, everything that they do is almost automated. I was at a facility for the fall program directors meeting, and they have instruments that will actually streak your microplates for you. It was amazing. But then how do we teach students to put plates on a machine? How do we teach students to, we can't teach students to use a Vitek. We can't teach them. We don't have that capability other than, maybe videos. The ASCP exam will ask them, you have these two organisms. How are you going to differentiate between the two organisms? And the answers that they're looking for are motility or indole or sugar production or gas production. So we go back to the 5-tube setup. I understand, like, I don't think that there's probably any labs out there that use a 5-tube setup for microbiology anymore. However, it really allows the students to put in their head the processes or the flow chart for identifying organisms. You can't answer an ASCP question with throw it on the Vitek or put it on the whatever. So we really have to use, I agree, yes, they're outdated methodologies, but they do give us a good background for students to visualize the reactions that take place and kind of give them a process, reinforce that flow chart in their head as far as identifying organisms. I wish we could do more as far as the automated here on campus, but that's not everybody in all of our cooperative sites are going to have the same automation. Growing your own employees, lab assistant, phlebotomist to MLT. That is definitely the best option. If you have phlebotomists, if you have CNAs, if you have other lab people or unlicensed, if that's a word, people working in your lab, encourage them to become to go through the program and get that background knowledge and then become licensed. And then the adding summer classes to decrease program time was the other bit of feedback. So we've pretty much, I think, addressed the feedback that we've gotten last year, which is why I feel feedback is so important. And we definitely do take into consideration everything that has been suggested. Program statistics for 21, 22 into 23. Our pass rate, certification pass rate did go down in 2020. We went from about a 75% to 69% in 2020, 2021. Again, that was across the board from MLS programs, MLT programs all across the nation. With ASCP, I feel like we're seeing some of the results of COVID in our ASCP pass rates. So far this year, from our May graduates of May 2022 graduates, we have had 8 tests so far. 7 of them have passed. So our results are 87% now pass rate, which is much better than what it has been. And I do believe that could be partially because we've extended the clinical rotation hours and we added those comprehensive exams. I do believe that that is giving students the incentive to go back and review courses and kind of give them a heads up as to what the ASCP exam is going to be like. So we are expecting between 23 and 25 to graduate in May, which is, I think, a great number for us. It's definitely increased over the past 5 years. And I just went through our general education MLT majors list. And as far as active students in the pipeline, not including the phlebotomy students, this is just MLT as their major. We have 287 active, like taking courses this semester for Gen Eds for the MLT program. So everybody moves at their own pace, but we have been averaging about 80 to 87-ish students in MLT program courses each semester for the past year or two. So the program's growing. It has a good outlook. I think we're making some changes in the right direction. I think there's still some things that we can definitely improve on. But that is our statistics for this year. Recruiting students and employees. Every day I get an email or two from someone saying, hey, we have a position or two open. And what we have done is we blast that out to students on our announcements. We post it on our Facebook page. But we feel like we need to do more to help you. We're turning students out as best we can, as fast as we can, but there are some things that we're trying to do in addition to that. We did start a HOSA chapter, which incorporates all health professionals, but definitely gets the MLS and MLT profession out there, along with the phlebotomy. We are doing a Jack Kilby Day. Jack Kilby is big science day in Great Bend. And we have students, high school students from all over the state come to campus, and we do little demonstrations. This year, we're going to do a parasitology demonstration. Everybody thought that would be kind of fun. So we'll see how that goes. We're doing ESDAC career fair, or basically career fair in Hutchinson, Kansas. In November, we've got 2 or 3 high schools, 3 high schools in the area scheduled already. Tyler's already gone out and done one presentation to the area high school. So we are getting out, we are promoting the program and the profession. Andrea's lab operations class has an assignment in it, our capstone class, where they will do a presentation to their local high school or their local hospital as far as promoting the profession. And so we are doing things like that. One thing that we would like to do specifically for our clinical facilities is have a job fair. And we were approached by the nursing department a couple of weeks ago about doing a joint health career professionals job fair here on the Great Bend campus, which I thought it was great. Let's say Great Bend Regional could come and put up a table, and then they could interview anybody from nursing or dietary or physical therapy or lab or whoever. Our students would be able to attend. However, the majority of our students are online. So we discussed adding a virtual option or a Zoom option for some of those interviews. So I would, that's one thing on our program survey. I would definitely, if you would be interested in participating, either coming to campus and doing some interviews on campus, or even a Zoom option, please put that in your survey results. And I think we're definitely going to go ahead with some type of spring job fair for all health professions. But if you'd be interested in just a laboratory job fair as well, probably virtual in that option, let me know. I would definitely like to work on that. Curriculum review. Of course, Our curriculum has not been changed much other as far as the courses that we offer, because we are KBOR aligned with the other MLT programs in Kansas. However, the links for the curriculums are the MLT curriculum is here, and the phlebotomy curriculum is there as well. And then on the advisory board survey, it asks the question, does the program content as reflected in the curriculum guide align with industry standards and expectations for employment? And if you could, again, vote yes, it does, or yes, it does not. I think that is on the advisory board survey as well. And then Dr. Kotis, or in absence of Dr. Kotis, our executive director, Chris Baker, do you have some updates?
Absolutely. Dr. Kotis is our resident apprenticeship expert, but I'll do my best to kind of explain. Apprenticeships are basically a new buzzword in the state of Kansas. It's not a new word, but it's something that's really, it's gaining steam to move forward. I believe the state of Kansas currently ranks in the middle 40s across the United States as far as the amounts of registered interns or apprenticeships. And so the state's made this a focus, and the goal by 2025 is to be in the top 25. And so we've started going to some trainings, and many businesses are doing apprenticeships, but they might not be registered apprenticeships. And so that's kind of one thing that we've learned as we've kind of stepped into this. So with registered apprenticeships, it's definitely a process, and we at Barton, we're working to get involved in this process. We do know that there's money available through state grants, and it can help the businesses and help the training portion, but it's basically an opportunity to grow your own. And one way it was explained to me at a recent meeting was, think of it as a career advancement program. Karen kind of briefly mentioned about phlebotomist to MLT. That is a perfect example of what an apprenticeship could be. So the three main areas of apprenticeship, as far as registered apprenticeships are concerned, is the business or the agency, the healthcare facility, whatever the case might be, would be seen as the sponsor. And then there's an intermediary that's would be, think of it as the paperwork portion. They help set up the agreements, help do the paperwork that's given to the federal government of the state of Kansas. And kind of correlate or collaborate to figure out what that agreement's going to look like, as far as what the training is going to be required and the route that the training is conducted. If you do a registered apprenticeship, they're on staff as a paid employee, and then after so many hours they can earn a raise. And so there's definitely steps of progress that can be achieved along the way. The intermediary stays in touch with that student or that employee, monitors progress, helps the business, helps the trainer to kind of stay on task and meet those deadlines. And then the last section would be what's called an RTI, and that's the area where technical instruction takes place. There are lots of different ways that could be conducted, and it depends on the apprenticeship and what the goal in mind is. So we just kind of wanted to introduce that concept. If a business has a interest in learning more, they can definitely reach out to Karen or myself, and we can kind of get you on that list. It's new, it's early. Like I said, we're learning. Barton is definitely going to get involved in this. So please do contact, and we can kind of keep you informed as we move forward. There's going to be some additional trainings. Barton's went to some trainings and attended some presentations, and then we have another one here coming up in November. So we'll keep you informed as we move forward. Maybe more information would be available in the spring, but we definitely want to kind of introduce the concept and what we as the community college is doing to kind of help move that forward. our initial information is it's a wonderful opportunity to hopefully help people, the business, find employees, hopefully keep employees for a long time and help grow them. Moving forward, college updates, just kind of wanted you to be aware. I believe it's next Thursday. It's October 13th at 9:30. We are doing a ribbon cutting on campus. That's the plumbing, carpentry, and welding programs. Plumbing and carpentry new, welding program is expanding. And so we're doing kind of an open house ribbon cutting to celebrate that October 13th at 9:30. And then this is our year that HLC, or the Higher Learning Commission, college accreditation, they're coming on campus October 24th and 5th. You know, it happens every 10 years, and it's our turn. So we've been working really hard on that throughout this, well, for the last 10 years, obviously, but recently just making sure that we're prepared and ready for that site visit. We feel really good about it, and looking forward to the 24th and 5th. As far as the fall semester is concerned, advisory boards obviously in full swing. I think we have 17 of them that are occurring over the next 2 months. College visits, Karen mentioned the SDAC and some of the career fairs, Jack Kilby days, and so on and so forth there. SDAC is a big opportunity for us. It's 2 days in Hutchinson, so we're looking forward to those days. And then I think the last college update would be Barton's hosting an event with the chamber on October 20th, 5 to 7 p.m. It's out at Camp Aldridge. It's an opportunity to just come out and communicate, learn more, kind of a social time. So I think that is all I would have on the college updates. I'll turn it back over to Karen.
Thank you very much. Okay, so one of the things that the college is really geared up for this site visit. So if you all want to just go ahead and go, okay, we know how those inspections things go, right? So it is just to let you know, the college is having site inspections and accreditation visits as well. So keep your fingers crossed for us. I'm sure everything will go well, but you know the stress that's involved with those visits. So I think that's all I have for updates, for things that have changed, things that we're looking forward. I am going to give us a few minutes. If you could, if you have any questions, anything that you'd like to add as far as the program, any discussions that you want to bring up, we would definitely, now would be the time to do it. I want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and unmute yourself and discuss anything, any questions that you have. Feel free. While we're giving you some time for that, if you can go back up in the meeting chat area, the advisory board survey, the minutes, the agenda has everything on there. There's the advisory board survey is in the chat as well. And then the program survey is on the agenda, the link to that or the QR code. And then it was also included in your invitation email. And like I said, we do take to heart everything that we receive as feedback, good and bad. So we definitely have some things that we can work on, and would love to hear anything that you could suggest. So I'm done. Does anyone have any discussions?
I would just like to thank you for offering this online option, because I think it's definitely a big deal for people who are working full time. I've had so many people come to me and ask about online schools, and there are none in our area. I'm from West Virginia, and I have a student in my lab in your program. She's fantastic. She's working in blood bank right now. But I have had so many prospective students that are interested in a program, and I've directed them all to Barton since I found out about the program, because there aren't very many that will offer it, and we'll look for it because of the clinicals. So thank you for that. You're helping us all across the country.
Right. Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate that. And again, we couldn't do it without the support of the cooperative and clinical labs that you all provide for us. If we didn't have those options, we absolutely wouldn't exist. So I appreciate everything that you do for our students.
Hey, this is Tia from, I'm here in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and I have a couple of your students as well. I'm wondering if there's any thoughts about online putting the locations of some of the places that do have your students. So somebody in my metro area is interested, they look up Barton, and then they would know that, oh, there's a lab here locally that is already, working with these students. I was just wondering if that would be something to consider, and it might be helpful for both sides, both parties.
Yep. Actually, we do have it's a Google map that has all of the locations of our cooperative and clinical lab sites on there. And I share that with students as a link. They can go in and zoom in and out of their area, and it has, everything on there. Even our students in Alaska and Hawaii are on there. So I do have a map. It's available. I could maybe work on the option of adding that directly to our website, but definitely if it's one of those that updates in real time. So I can definitely send you a link to that map, and then you can share it with
because I just think it might be helpful there on the website, so that person that's just starting to look knows that, oh, there are, like, yes, it's online. I wonder, and not have to start that search, just easily see that.
Okay. I can definitely work on seeing if that's an option.
I think that'd be helpful.
Thank
you.
I
do appreciate students I have are doing very well, and I do appreciate your program.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyone else? It's funny, I think we do have students in 27 states this semester alone. So. Okay, well, that is right about at the point where I was hoping that we could finish up today, just under an hour. So I try and talk fast, but anyway, so please, if you can, complete those surveys, the advisory board survey, the program survey, and thank you for everything that you do for our students. Again, our program couldn't exist in the capacity that it does without you and everything that you do for the program and the students and the profession. So I appreciate your time. Please never hesitate to contact me with questions or comments or anything. I am available, and thank you so much for joining us. We will send you a recording with minutes and notes and everything probably later this month. And thank you again. So have a great day.